Okay, welcome to Kofsky's Mortgages and Hoagies, episode 10. I have a very special guest for you all today. He is Temple University alumni. Fight, fight, fight for the cherry and the white. He is former minor league baseball umpire and current real estate agent, Matt Carlyon. Welcome to the show.
What's up, my man? I appreciate that. How you been?
Absolutely. I'm doing very, very good. Things are rocking down here in Florida. Definitely miss home. You can see I'm always representing,
Uh,
behind me. I got a couple of the flags here to the side that aren't usually on camera, but they're nice and big. They're 3 foot by 5 foot, and the reception desk is right down the hall. So the first thing you see when you come into this office are my Phillies, Eagles, and Sixers flags. So
that's the most important, man. I got my two banners there for our Super Bowls. You can't see it, but I have a Brian Dawkins signed helmet that's in our other room. So I got my
very nice.
memorabilia as well. You got to have it. You got
You
to represent.
You always need the B-Doc stuff for
Yes,
sure.
yes. He's behind
B-Doc
me
was one
here.
of, at my bar mitzvah, B-Doc was on one of the centerpieces,
Yes,
of course, right in the middle of the table. You have to always have him on display. Definitely one of the Mount Rushmore
yeah,
of all-time greatest Eagles.
yeah. He was uh,
Um,
he was my idol growing up. I actually got to meet him when I was like 16 or so. And I was at Eagles training camp, and he was
okay.
like looking over me, and I was like, hey, Brian, you think I can get a picture with you? And oh, of course, and he takes a picture and he's signing my book, and he says, you should really address me as Mr. Dawkins. He's like, if you
You really say
address,
that?
yeah, he's like, if you address somebody by, Mr. whatever, it shows some respect. It'll get you, it'll earn your respect with them, and it'll get you a lot further. And I took that advice, and I credit that advice to getting my job in minor league baseball, because I think I made a good impression with the people that were down there. And I was consciously thinking of how he told me about making those first impressions. So,
That's
Doc,
awesome. And I'm
my
glad that
hero.
you took that and jumped right into it. I want to take us back to the Temple days,
Yes.
because I think years ago when I first saw that you were, umpiring, that it's not something that I think we talked about. Now granted, that could have been because I was busy in extracurriculars and having too much fun. And maybe we did have a full blown conversation about it at some point, but it was something that I wasn't aware that you were doing. How do you even get into something like that?
Yeah. So back then it was a trade school. So I went to the Wendelstedt Umpire School. I went there in 2013. It's a 5-week program. Um, Once you complete it, you're either qualified for minor league baseball or you're not. They take their qualified students, they send them to a minor league evaluation course, and you just jump in. You start at the lowest level and climb your way up. So this
So
actually
how
took
did you
place.
find out about this?
Well, it was after my Temple days. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'd worked some little league games, and I did some local stuff like that. And then after Temple, I was kind of just still figuring out like what I really wanted to do. And my dad mentioned it to me. He was like, I saw this thing about umpire school. And he's like, I know you really love umpiring, like local games and things like that. Like, do you think you can make a career out of it? And I was like, well, now's a good time to give it a shot. So I was like 22 years old, flew down to Florida, didn't really know what I was getting into. There was a lot of kids that were a lot more prepped than I was.
Yeah.
But I just went in there and was willing to learn and got myself a spot. And 10 years later, I got myself up to a AA crew chief spot, major league spring training game. So yeah, this
That
is
is absolutely awesome. So, again, just to not move along the journey too fast, at
yeah.
Temple, what were you studying for this to come completely out of left field?
So at Temple, I was studying a couple different things. I originally started with kinesiology in the kinesiology department. I was studying physical therapy. And then I kind of moved into like more of a physical education. My dad was a phys ed teacher, so
Got you.
I always liked it. I always played sports. I always liked doing things like that.
Yeah.
But I kind of jumped around. And then, I was like, well, maybe I should just do athletic training. But if I'm doing athletic training, like, do I need to be here at Temple? So I left Temple and I went to a trade school. And that's when I went to the umpire school. And then
Got you.
once I started working in baseball, which really got my like athletic itch out. Cause like I said, when I was at Temple, I was like physical therapy, physical education, athletic training. I was like, I know I want to do something in the sports world, but like, I don't really know what. And then umpiring kind of scratched that itch. And then once I was doing the umpiring thing, I took some online courses and I finished my degree in advertising. So that kind of ties in a little bit more of like the marketing and the kind of the stuff that I do now.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
So, so you leave Temple, you go to the trade school, you end up in umpire school. It's a 5 week program. You're out of umpiring. Your first game, what are you in, like a single A?
I was in the Florida Gulf Coast League. Um, and I was working with a kid that he was 18 years old, and I also went to umpire school with him. Him and I actually got hired as instructors later, but we were working together. And these are little complex fields, so it's not much different than what you would see like at your local high school, where it's just a chain link fence. There's maybe one small bleachers, but they're just young kids that were either drafted out of high school. Or just like picked from wherever, and to
Yeah.
come play and see how well they do. And on one of our very first games, I think it actually was our very first game, we had this bench, like this big bench clearing situation. A guy hit a home run. He started pimping it a little bit as he crossed home
Yeah, of
plate. They
course.
were getting all, yeah. So I was like just trying to keep my head on straight. Because it was the middle of the season. It was August. I got promoted out of a different league, like a developmental league, into minor league baseball. And yeah, my first game, I guess I stepped into hot water. Or might have not already liked each other. It was August by that time. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, first game was very overwhelming. It was like just a lot to take in, and I was, it was exciting though.
So that was your first benches clearing
Yeah.
brawl. Now tell me about your first interaction with one of the minor league baseball players. Of course, I'm sure you've ejected your fair share of people. What's the first interaction you had where you were like, okay, I've arrived, I'm here, this is real. I just had this exchange with this player.
Um, I remember Rafael Devers very early. He was like the first major league player really remember um, that I really remember seeing, where I was like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
this guy's really good." And it was also right around the time there was a second baseman came from Cuba. Oh my goodness, I can't remember his name, but he was a big Moncana, well, whatever. But seeing their Johan Moncada was his name.
Okay.
Um, but he was a second baseman, and just seeing the quickness in their hands, like for that first time, it's just mind blowing. Like it's nothing like you've ever seen before. Seeing how fast the transition goes from like catching to throwing, and like when you see these players that are destined for the major leagues, and you're just this 22-year-old kid who had worked, coming up from working like a 12-year-old little league game, and now all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm on the field with these stars. It's very overwhelming at first, but you settle in and you get used to it.
So Devers got a bit of an attitude on him. Did you ever have an exchange with him or no?
No, no, no. And this is spring training. So it was like my very first taste. This is, the in 2014. So it was my very first taste of spring training. Um, everything's pretty chill down there. So there wasn't
Yeah.
really anything crazy, or any arguments or anything that would be said. People are just kind of getting into the rhythm of it. But spring training is really cool too, because you have major league guys. It's all like the complex fields are right outside of the major league spring training fields. So sometimes the major league guys are coming, they'll pitch an inning, or maybe they have to get at bats in. So you get to see a lot of major league guys during spring training as well. And I don't know if you've ever you go to Clearwater at all
I've
during
been
the.
to Clearwater a
Yeah,
few times, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'd recommend checking out those complex fields too. It's a good opportunity to see some young talent, and a lot of
I'll
times
have
these
to do
major
that.
league guys
I'm
are
only like
are
an
out
hour and a
there.
half to 2 hours away right now because I'm just north of Orlando. So, I should be going over there next season for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Clearwater. That's one of my favorite stadiums. I've umpired quite a few games in that ballpark.
Yeah, I think I have a few Threshers hats somewhere in
Yes.
in the closet. Are they still the Clearwater Threshers?
As last time I checked, I don't know. They recently reshuffled all the minor leagues, so I'm a little disconnected with it. But I'm pretty
Gotcha.
sure that they are all still the Threshers, still playing in those major league stadiums.
So Other than I got a few umpire questions. This is obviously very interesting. This wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't imagining that I was going to have somebody with this kind of experience on the podcast, especially this early. So you'll be able to give us some good insight. Other than Rafael Devers, who are some major leaguers now that you've seen up close? Maybe some pitchers that when they released their first fastball, you were like, "Wow, this is much different than what I'm used to seeing."
Yeah. So the first big leaguer that I remember like really calling a lot of pitches for, like in an actual game, was Kevin Gossman. He was on a rehab assignment in Aberdeen, and it was actually my dad's birthday weekend. So my dad came from Pennsylvania down to Aberdeen, and I wasn't really expecting it, but Kevin Gossman was on a rehab assignment. He came out, pitched like 6 innings, and I thought that was really cool. And then that was like my first actual encounter with like somebody that was a full-time major league guy coming down to a minor league game, pitching like a full game, like in competition. And
Yeah,
then
because
after
double A
that,
is where they do a lot of their rehab starts, and double A is also where you put your younger top prospects.
yeah,
So a lot of the triple A guys are, fringe guys that don't always make the jump to the majors, but your double A guys are where you put your top prospects. At least that's what it was for a really long time.
yeah,
So getting into the double A league is probably where a lot of that excitement happens.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, AAA, you do see a lot of talent, but you also see guys that were in the major leagues that come down and they're just kind of, in that holding period.
Right.
Um, but yeah, this Aberdeen team, that was low A. And I think at this point now, I think Aberdeen is a part of the prospect league, but I could be mistaken about that. I need to double check. But yeah, this was low A, and you're absolutely right. Though most people do double A assignments, but also if you're coming off of a major injury and you just need at bat, sometimes you don't want to face the top talent. You just want to
Yeah.
get out there and face younger guys that you can just go out and
You
throw
just
a
want to
little bit
let it rip
against.
and
And
embarrass these kids, right?
yeah, even these young kids, sometimes because they got something to prove too, so they're out
Yeah.
there, they're giving it their all for sure.
So talk to me a little bit about pay in the minor league baseball system. So not just from umpiring, but from a players as well. I've spoken to a couple minor league players that were kind of in stuck in that double A, triple A, that never made it pro, and they gave me some interesting perspective where they said a lot of these guys, unless you're someone who's on a fast track to get to the majors, that it's really hard to stay involved as a player in the minor leagues because you're not making that much money. You do have a grueling schedule, and that, if you can withstand the financial hardship of being a minor league baseball player, that you have a better chance to make it than some of these other guys who might have to pick up a part time job or might have to do other things in their lives. Is there anyone that you thought, I guess, this is a lot of information I'm spilling out here. Is there anyone that you thought, that if they hung around a little longer might have been able to go big that you can remember? And tell us a little bit about what pays like in the minor league system.
Well, from the umpiring perspective, well, actually, I can speak on both players and umpires that I thought were good that didn't get opportunities or decided not to take the opportunity. Some people will just get into like the double A level and they'll either meet somebody or whatever, and for whatever reason they decide, you know what, I don't want this anymore. And it's a shame because a lot of them are usually pretty good. Like I know some very good umpires that were on major league tracks that
Yeah.
just decided, you know what? I don't like traveling all the time. Because you got to remember, umpires don't have a home field. Baseball players travel a lot in general. It's probably the most
Yeah,
traveling out of any sport that's out there. You're on
for
long
sure.
road trips, things like that.
For half the year.
Yeah, yeah. So it can be grueling, and for umpires, there is no home stadium, and similarly in the minor leagues, you have your home stadium, but your family's not there, because you could bounce leagues. You don't have a house, you have a roommate that you stay with. So like even on your home stands, you're like just staying with you're in a room with somebody that you spend all day with on the field. It's not you don't get home time.
Yeah.
And yeah, pay. When I first started, it was like a little less than 2,000 a month that we would make in like the lowest levels.
Jeez.
Now pay's gone up since this is in 2000, yeah,
I
2013.
mean, even if you adjust for pay going up and, inflation and all that, that's still pretty
Yeah,
low for 2013.
yeah. Every year they might bump it up like $100, $200. You get a little bit more. And now it's strictly based on the class that you're in. So, if you're in this class, you get this much per month. I think AAA guys are getting like 4,000, maybe 4,500. So
Okay.
it's still not crazy, but it's
No.
it's much better than it was before. And also, there's a per diem, so you get the government per diem rate, and if you
Right.
don't
So your
spend that,
expenses are a little lower. So, when you're traveling, what kind of places are you staying in?
oh, so I remember when I in the Coastal Plain League before I got into the minor leagues. So, when I went to my evaluation course, they said, you're good, but we want to see you in this college league first. And that was wild. I mean, we were staying at like motels. I mean, they were really like some rundown places, like, outdoor hallways and things like that. Like, they were pretty bad. In the minor leagues, it got a little bit better. Especially as you climbed your way up. When you're in short season, you have a roommate. So finally, when you get to full season and you're putting on like a full 140 game schedule, I think they do in the minor leagues.
Okay.
When you put on that full schedule, you do get your own room, so it's a little less stressful. You kind of get
Okay.
to unwind a little bit because those first couple of years in the minor leagues where it's two people on the field. You're rooming with the same guy, you're road trips with the same guy, you're going to work with the same guy, you're
Jeez,
sharing the
no
same
break.
car. You guys are married.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, and I can imagine you're not choosing that guy either.
No, no, he's
Um,
picked. I haven't really had any bad experiences. They're pretty good about making sure that
they're all
everybody
cool
is,
dudes who like
yeah,
baseball.
exactly, exactly. So, you know, it hasn't been too bad.
That's awesome. So obviously, when somebody's in the minor leagues and they're a player, there's a clear path that you can, just envision on how they can get to the major leagues, right? If you're struggling in this area or that area, you want to work on these things as far as baseball to get your batting average up, or to drive in more runs, or to run the base paths better. When you're going through this process and you're going through a similar trajectory and your goal is to get to the major leagues. What are some of the experiences where things are you working on as an umpire to get better in certain areas that coincide with the game? What is, I guess, kind of the reviews like, or the critiques like? Are you going back and watching film? Are you, like, put us inside the mind of what that experience is like.
So, learning how to do it is very simple. Like I said, it's a 5-week program, and after that, you know how to do everything that you need to know how to do. Like, how to call pitches. Once you and we learn how to call pitches on a pitching machine that's lobbing balls in there at 50 miles an hour. But if you're doing it properly, so you get into your stance, you're lined up in an area called the slot, so you can see between the catcher and the hitter. You have a very good angle of that inside corner. You can see the outside corner, but it is a little bit harder to judge that outside corner. But you're keeping your head still, you're keeping your body as still as possible, like a tripod, and then you track the pitch in with your eyes without moving your head. And once you can do that, you can call any pitch that they throw. You can throw pitches that are running away. You can call pitches that are, sliders. You can call knuckleballs because you have that fundamental knowledge down of being in a set stance and just tracking with your eyes. As you develop, some of the things that they're looking for are like your instincts for understanding where plays are going to be, where the tags are going to occur, and making sure that you're in the right position to make those calls. Now, in the
Okay.
two umpire system, it's very difficult because it's two people. You're kind of, you're
Right.
covering a lot of space. And then as you go up, you get into three umpire, you get into four umpire, and as this ball's hit,
And then
if
in the playoffs in the majors, they have six.
I know, yeah, you got two
Yeah.
guys on the
So
line. Some people argue that
right.
that's too much. That like, hey, should we really change this up for these playoff games? We're calling with four guys all season. Like, why are we bringing an
Yeah.
extra guy for that? But I mean, he's only calling fair foul. It's not that huge of a deal. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. It's six guys plus you got that seventh guy on the replay. Yeah,
So
so
speaking of the guys on the replay,
yeah.
sorry, did you have
Well,
another
no,
thing
I
you're
was
going to
just gonna
add as far
say,
as
yeah,
trajectory?
just making sure that you're in the right positions. As soon as that ball's hit, are you getting to the right spot? Are you putting yourself in an angle to see the tag? Are you, things like that. Missed calls are going to happen. You're not going to be perfect. They understand that.
Yeah,
Um,
but positioning, I would imagine, solves most of that. I mean, a lot of times if you see an ump miss a call when you're watching TV, obviously TV, they give us the best angle. But a
yeah,
lot of times, you'll be yelling at the TV, he couldn't even see it.
yeah. Sometimes too, when you see like when there's a play at the plate and you see that angle, and it gives you the perfect angle, and you'll see like the umpire is right below you, and he has that same exact angle. I always enjoyed seeing that when like you kind of get the same angle as what the umpire is seeing, and you understand why he's where he is because he can see the base, he can see the runner, he can see the tag, he can see everything in front of him. So
So this sounds like so much fun. So I want to make it a little less fun. I want the story of, was there a single game that you can remember where maybe you got called into the boss's office and he brought up some film of some of the balls and strikes that you called and you just
oh,
had a
you gotta
terrible
tighten it
game?
up. You gotta tighten it up. So my supervisors have never reamed me out for being bad. With that said, I have been told by many a manager that I am not good. Players have said it.
You don't
There's
say.
there's one specifically that I can think of. No, I mean in the minor leagues, you got to remember, like there's no challenge system, there's no replays, there's no nothing
Right.
like that. So it's very much old school baseball. So getting like 10 to 15 ejections in a minor league season is not that alarming. That's pretty standard. So you're throwing people out. It's going to happen. It is what it is. I remember there was two games. They kind of lined up next to each other that were pretty much pretty tough games to be a part of. It was late in the game down in Fort Myers. Doug Minkiewicz, who was a former player, he was
Yeah.
managing the one of the teams, and there was a ball that went down the line. Something very similar happened in the Phillies game recently, but there was a ball down the line, and it landed on the foul side of the chalk. And in my head, like I saw it hit the chalk,
Yeah.
but it was like on the foul side. And I don't know why, but I pointed foul. And now I'm pointing foul and I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to make a call. And I'm pointing this foul once I call it foul. And I came up and called foul. And I knew it was very close. It was very
Yeah.
close, it was super close, but I got a little tied up in my head and I missed it. And I called it foul. And it was late in the game, very, very important part. So Doug came out and he's irate as he should be, and I ended up throwing him out of the game. And then the next day we were at the plate meeting, and Doug comes out to the plate meeting. He's got his line of cards, hands it over, and he's like, it really sucks when the game gets decided by people that aren't even on the field. And I'm looking at the lineup card, and I'm like, people that aren't on the field. I'm like, is he talking? He's talking about me, isn't he? I'm like, first of all, I'm on the field, but I'm like, and then he gets into it, and he's like, "You took that game," and you said, "All right, Doug, we're not going back. We're not talking about yesterday because that's something that professional people are actually very, very good at is not bringing up the previous day." But he probably saw the video and just wanted to get his
Of
his
course.
money's worth.
Yeah,
So
that one
he
in the Phillies
actually,
game, you're talking about the one that was to right field, right? I mean,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was a
it was like,
pretty I think they called
yeah.
that against the Phils. I think that they called that foul
Well, I think it
even
worked in
after
their
the
favor
challenge.
because there was a runner. There was a
All right, we might
runner.
not
Are
be
you talking?
talking about the
I
same
think we're
one.
talking about different one. I think we're talking about
Okay.
different ones. Um, but yeah, this one, and it's easy because you're looking this way, and then the ball's hit, and you're looking this way, and sometimes you're right and left. Just they get you get screwed up, you get twisted up in your head. Um, so yeah, so at the plate meeting, he comes out and he says blah 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 whatever, and I end up throwing him out at the plate meeting. I believe that was the only time that I ever threw somebody out at the plate meeting. Um,
Before the game, you threw him out
before the
again.
game started. Yeah,
Oh
we're
my
at the
god, that's
we're at the
amazing.
plate meeting. We're exchanging lineup cards. I throw him out. Um, and now nobody. I'm working first base this game. I was on the plate for the game before, and the whole game, they just didn't believe me. So I would make a call and whatever. And in between these two games, I ended up ejecting seven people. I ejected the manager that day before. I ejected the manager at the plate meeting. I ejected the manager that filled in for him. I ejected the hitting coach, and I got a couple players. I think I got two or three players. It's friggin' wild. I was like, oh my god. But some days,
Yeah.
man, some days it just happens. And it's not like it's not like you're a pitcher that's out there. The pitcher's struggling. The manager comes out, throws calls for the righty. You're having a tough day. You just got to stick it out.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So lastly on the umpire topic, very controversial these days. I want to get
Here we
your
go.
opinion on the current ABS challenge system and what you think about automatic balls and strikes in the future.
Yeah, I think that's so. I think there's definitely some tweaking that they have to do because right now I believe they use a plane for the strike zone that is basically in the middle of home plate. So some of these pitches that are missing by like less than point 0.1 inch, um, these pitches are actually hitting the zone in the front and then running off. So it's not using a 3D strike zone like the rule book is
Gotcha.
actually defined. So I don't understand why they don't measure where the ball is at the front of the plate and where it is at the back of the plate in order to tell where it passed through. Like right now, they're only using one plane. So I think that there
Gotcha.
are tweaks that will be made. Um, I don't think it'll ever go to full time automated balls and strikes, at least not in like the immediate future, maybe like sometime down the road. But for now, I think the challenge system is doing its part. And it also, when a pitch comes in, a pitch can be very, very close and umpires are required to make a decision. It's either a ball or it's a
Right.
strike. And previously you had players that are frustrated and they would say, "Oh, that's not a strike. That's not a strike." And the umpire would say, "Yes, it is a strike." And they say, "It's not a strike." "Oh, yes, it is a strike." And that's how the conversation went. And now and now it's like, "Well, hey, if you don't agree with it, challenge it. Put your money where your mouth is."
And
So
if you do it
players
twice and you get them both wrong, then you don't get to
yeah,
question me
that's it.
again,
Then you
right?
lose your right. Yeah. So it's really eliminated a lot of arguments around balls and strikes because if you disagree with the call, you either challenge it or you don't say anything. So,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
we've become so accustomed to it already that even in like the Field of Dreams game, I remember Luis Rise comes up to the plate
yeah.
and they didn't have it, and he challenges it, and the ump's explaining to him that they don't have it, and all
Yeah,
I was sitting there thinking while I was watching the game was, this is going to end up deciding the game, and I'm going to be pissed. I mean,
I
luckily
know.
we went on and blew them out, but that's all that was going through my mind at the time was, watch, the one game we don't have this, it's going to decide the whole game.
I know. Bring it back to like the WBC when there was that one, kind of a tough call to end it. Nobody ever wants to see that happen. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that when the playoffs come around, I think what they're going to end up doing is making sure that teams, even if they use their challenges, their ABS challenges, I think they're going to put one in their pocket for the ninth inning, regardless, just
Hmm.
so they have that opportunity. Right now, they do it with extra innings. I think they might do it in the playoffs just to make sure that games don't end on controversial strike calls.
Yeah, I wrestle back and forth with it because as a self-proclaimed baseball purist, I love the fact that when we were younger, I spoke about Roy Halladay on the last podcast with Dylan that I just posted today, actually. And I compared it to sales, being able to adjust on the fly, being able to be a chameleon, being able to, change your strike zone when the umpire does. And I think that that's really was a great way to analyze the difference between a major leaguer, an all-star, a superstar, a Hall of Famer. Is,
Hmm.
can this pitcher adjust on the fly? And can the hitters do the same thing? If you know that the umpire in the first three innings is calling this as the strike zone, are you able to adjust your game? Are you that good? Now when you have, just that same area every time, you know, you can kind of get that muscle memory. You hit the spots, they're always the same spots. There's not as much adjusting. And I'm not taking away how hard it is to be a major league pitcher, of
Yeah,
course. But then part of me is also like, there's nothing worse than when you're in the eighth inning of a game and there's two outs and there's just a ball 2.5 inches off the plate and it totally decides the game. And you're
Yeah.
like, damn, why couldn't somebody up in the booth just buzzer down and make the call because they see it so quick in real time? So I definitely wrestle with wanting the best result and also wanting to hang on to the purity of the game.
I don't think you're alone in that at all. I think there's a lot of people that feel that exact same way, that want the game to be perfect. But yeah, there's a lot of old school baseball fans that like that human element. For the players, there's three columns on the scoreboard. There's hits, or runs, hits, and errors. And errors are just a part of life, and that human error, that little human element part of umpiring has always been a part
Yeah.
of it. People can remember the manager and the umpire going head to head, toe to toe, and
Yeah.
screaming each other's face, and that's always
Yeah,
been a
the
part
the
of the
Lou
game.
Piniella days, man. What would
Yeah,
it be without a good old appearance from Lou at the umpire?
yeah.
Um,
You got a lot of. I think a lot of gambling now has especially affected
a
the
lot to do with
um,
it, yeah.
the perfection aspect of it. There's when people are losing a lot of money on bets. And not only is it hurting the gamblers, but it's making people suspicious, saying, "Whoa, maybe he had a little his
Right.
hand in the pot." So
Right, exactly. They want to take that human element out of it so that way they hold on to the integrity of the bets. I mean,
yeah,
it does make a lot of sense. You're talking about players focus on runs, hits, and errors. I don't know why, but it reminded me I was at a Marlins game probably 20 years ago. It's got to be a long time ago. Dan Ugla was playing second base,
okay, he's a big
and
dude.
yeah, dude, he committed like his third error of the game. And now if you've ever been to the Marlins stadium, you can sit like 5 rows behind the dugout for $20 at this point that I'm talking about. So we're right there, and Dan Ugla comes up to the plate after committing his third error, and this guy in our row just yells, now batting E4. And it was so silent that you could hear it, though everyone in the stadium could hear it, right? And like you just see him like just
Yeah.
totally get deflated and defeated. It was, I don't even think they were playing the Phillies, but it was just absolutely hilarious.
This guy in your row, are you sure that wasn't you, Eric Kofsky?
Listen, I would love to take credit for it, and let's say there's been many times where I have been the heckler, but no, it was not me this time. I will say I'm gonna give that random guy who I don't remember his props, but I will say my dad and I and my buddy Taylor Furlano, who currently works for the Miami Dolphins, we will go see the Phillies while they're in town. Over the course of the last 12, 13 years, I've been back and forth. Taylor's lived down in Florida since 2013 after he graduated Temple. You might know Taylor Fulano. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so we'd go to the games, and we'll have people that come up to us who are from like international that might be visiting the United States or that just moved to the United States, and we'll be decked out in Phillies gear heckling people, and they'll come up and say, we want to take pictures with real fans. So I actually have
Yeah.
pictures like on my Facebook that I can scroll back to and show you, of just random people that were like, you guys are the ones I want to tell the story about, like my
Yeah,
experience here at my first baseball game. So me, I'm not shy, no
of
stranger
course.
to talking some smack there in the stands.
Yeah. Gotta
So
live up to that. Gotta live up to that, to the reputation that we have here.
absolutely. Well, that's part of
Hard
it too.
nose.
Is I think that's a lot of when people come to the stadium and they're visitors. I try to explain this to fans of other teams that have never been there, like especially now with social media. All these other fans have talked about what scumbags we are for years. So now that's like our reputation. Like that's what we're known for. And you come to our city and you put your jersey on Rocky, and then you got a bunch of drunk people in the parking lot showing each other the pictures of what you did, to our hero, Rocky Balboa. And then you just expect us to be like, oh, well, that's nice. No, you're the ones that gave us this reputation to uphold. You're the ones that came to our city and desecrated our statue.
Yeah,
And now you think that you're just going to walk into the stadium and we're not going to say anything to you?
I don't think so. You challenge us.
Unbelievable.
You're
Yeah,
challenging us.
exactly. Don't put us in that position.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, speaking of the Phillies, we'll get on the roll here. We got Aaron Nola last night completing the
Yeah.
back-to-back sweeps, 7 innings, 1 run. He's got a 2.51 ERA in his last 5 games. The last time we were able to say that about that kid, I don't remember. Finally earning his keep as the 16th highest pitcher in baseball, I think, and it's been a while since he's really earned that contract. We've won 6 in a row. In the last week, we've narrowed the Braves' lead from 9.5 to 4.5, and we play them 7 times next month. I mean, this is getting really exciting. What's your take on the Phillies? Give me the good, the bad, the ugly.
Um, yeah, I think shuffling up the team, the addition of Luis Ariz is definitely sparking him a little bit. Some people will argue that this team is old. We've tried to do it a couple times in the past, but they're a good team. They can play. They can definitely be competitive. So I think it's just about getting hot at the right time. I
Yeah.
think they're doing everything that they need to do right now to close the gap to stay in contention. And then right as that uh, calendar turns into Red October, you know, time to light it up.
I think as long as you have, a healthy Wheeler, Sanchez, Lizardo, hopefully Nola, that you can get into a 5 game series and beat anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, if those guys come out and throw to their potential, there's not a team in the league that they can't step to. Now, in a 7 game series, obviously now you need 2 starts from a couple of them to be at that level quality, which makes it harder. What I really liked about the Marlins series, and I was going back and checking the box score and checking everything because they've been doing a lot of things right that they haven't been doing right all season. And we 3 straight games, we put up runs, but we hit 1 home run. Luis Ariz hit the only home run of the series, and it was just single, 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 single. We drove guys in playing the small ball, playing that small ball baseball, and it's not something that the Phillies have done over the last few years. We've lived and died by the home run. If the big guys disappear, we haven't been able to win games. But looking at the box score and seeing Marsh is starting to pick it up a little bit in the last, I think since the All-Star break, or maybe since the start of August, it is that Stott and Baum are 2 of the top 5 in batting average in the league. I mean, seeing the way that they're playing a different brand of baseball, is that exciting you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always exciting. You gotta love when the city's got some energy and, teams are winning and, we're heading into the best time of the year. That fall
It's so
season's right
exciting. I
around the
love this
corner,
time. This is
right?
this is the time, like these last 45 days of the season, especially after the All-Star break. This is where I got my MLB TV and I'm going quad
Oh
box
yeah.
and I'm watching multiple games at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time. And, I really start getting that heavy baseball fever. I get it big time in April.
Yes,
I get it,
same.
a little bit towards the middle. And then the
Yeah.
last 60 days are just, oh my God, there's
Yeah.
nothing like it. And then what else is happening during those 60 days is we're getting ready for football season, we're getting ready for hockey season, we're
Yes.
getting ready for basketball season. It's just a great time of year.
This is easily my favorite time of the year. You got I'm a, as far as weather goes, I like the warm weather. I don't like the winter, but you know what? The change from summer into fall when it starts getting a little crisp and, football's coming around the corner, that is best time of the year.
i'm I am definitely a fall and spring guy. I've never
Yes.
been a winter or a summer guy, but I am the guy, and you got plenty of friends like this. I am the lunatic who wears hoodies and basketball shorts when it's 30 degrees outside.
Yeah.
I am one of those. I don't mind, because I hate when you then get into a place and then you're wearing all these layers and then
Oh,
what do you do with them? I'd rather
yeah.
just be cold for 30 seconds outside, and there's something refreshing about it. Like you won't catch me dead in a lake down here in Florida, right? You don't know
Yeah.
what's swimming around in it. You don't know what's growing in it. Pretty disgusting. But when I lived
Yeah.
in Michigan, what I loved about the lakes is that, especially the ones that were shallow enough that froze completely over during the winter, one, you can ice skate on them. And then two, by the time the summer came around, it was all like fresh, right? Everything froze over and then remelted. And it was just like a fresh body of water to swim in, and you didn't have all that gook and shit in it. So I definitely see the reason for the seasons, and I do miss having the 4 seasons, as
I
they
can
change in
imagine.
Philly. There's nothing more weird for me than when it's like Christmas and New Year's and it's 80 degrees outside.
I
It is
yeah.
just a weird feeling.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I don't know if I could do it. I might like going to like North Carolina. I feel like that's the furthest away from any type of winter that I'd really want to go.
Yeah, and they have some seasons too. I haven't been there, at all different times of the year. There's something about it, the leaves falling and it being
Yeah,
brisk outside for Thanksgiving or Halloween, and down here it's just, don't get me wrong. There are things. I have a
of
dog.
course.
There are
Yeah.
times where I'm like last night, I'm walking my dog. It's hot outside. It's 8:30 at night. It didn't even begin to cool down. It felt comfortable. I thought to myself, wow, could you imagine if I was getting ready to have to do this in 30-degree weather in a few months?
No.
Like, it's times like that where I'm like, eh,
You
this
know,
ain't so bad.
I don't like the cold weather. So when it's like 0, and I'm bundled up and I'm doing whatever, I'll complain and I'll admittedly say that I don't like it. So I've made it a point that when the summer comes and you have those days that are like 100 where it's crazy hot, I make sure that I never say a word because I don't want to be the guy that complains about cold weather and hot weather. That was my commitment
Absolutely,
that I
yeah.
made to
Then you're
myself.
always a complainer, right?
No, yeah.
All right. So before we get into real estate, which we will, I don't want to forget to bring up your TikTok page. I don't spend enough time on TikTok itself. I'm usually on Instagram a little more because it auto shares to Facebook and everything.
Yeah.
Then I'll hop over to TikTok, post my things. But you got a very, very entertaining page. We're gonna make sure that we put that handle up and get people over
Yeah.
there. It's fun. It's you're doing voiceovers. You're making fun of different social situations. One of my favorite ones when the package gets delivered and you live in
Yeah.
Philly, and it disappears like, in the two steps when you get to the door. That was great. Some of the different characters that you use. Tell me a little bit about what gave you the idea to start that. How often are you doing it? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
It's funny. I've always enjoyed kind of making things like that, but I never really dug too far into like my creative side. When I was a kid, I played all kinds of sports, did all kinds of activities. I was always outside, always doing this, always doing that. I never really did anything in the like artistic world. And then I kind of realized, I like doing this as I got a little bit older. So I just committed to really diving into it. Especially around COVID time, the baseball season was canceled for that whole summer, and that's when TikTok was really
Yeah.
like exploding. So I was like, let me try this out, and it's just something I enjoy. I try to find just regular things that people can relate to. Mostly like in my same age group, like that millennial type humor. Guys
Yeah.
that are like in their 30s and just things that happen, and I try to make a fun little bit out of it. And I'm trying to expand in that world a little bit. Like I signed up for a script writing class in January, so
Okay.
that was a lot of fun. We like learned how to make those like SNL style scripts. And I just finished Improv 101, which was a
Hell yeah. I've been
blast.
thinking about doing like an improv class or a
Yeah,
comedy class. I mean, I did it a couple times in college, but never really stuck with it.
yeah. I wish I would have done it when I was younger, now. But like I said, I'm doing it now, and I enjoy doing it a lot. And I'd like to see, kind of where it goes. I like to network and
Yeah.
find some more like-minded people that I can work with. Right now, if I do any skits and sketches, I'm pretty much doing all the different characters. So,
Yeah,
I
which also is pretty fun when you're watching. Like,
yeah,
I get a kick out of that.
yeah, I enjoy it. It's something fun that I like to do, and if I can tie it into work as well, that's also a little bit of a bonus. But for right now, I'm just kind of learning how to resonate with audiences and how to
Yeah.
edit videos in certain ways and make the transitions and just the bones behind it.
Yeah. And are you editing mostly on the app itself?
No, I'll use CapCut for the most part.
Okay. CapCut. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I use
yeah,
Captions app, the AI editor, for a lot of like my like profile shot
yeah,
videos, to auto edit like my real estate, mortgage videos. And then I'll use edits on Instagram, and then like with edits, I'll like bring it into Instagram, I'll post it, and then I'll delete the captions, download it, put it into TikTok, redo the captions so that way it's native to TikTok. And
yes.
try to mix it up that way. But I will say, obviously, I've been very active on social media these last couple months. Anyone who
I've
follows me
noticed.
can see that I've been
Yeah.
all over, and it's a lot of work. I had Jimmy Muzz on episode 7, who has over 150,000 followers.
Yeah, it's
Movie Death
awesome.
Blows. You'll have to check that out. He does movie TV series reviews, and I'm seeing how often he posts, and you don't really understand or respect how much effort goes into it. But I it's basically a second job. Like
Yeah.
it takes enough time to just make the content, but then posting it all over, doing the captions yourself, posting, changing them on each thing that you post them on. It's not. I'm spending a couple hours a day at least doing this stuff. It's not something I'm completing in 20 minutes.
And if I don't do it immediately, like I will sometimes make a video, I will edit it, I'll like clip it all up, but not post it, and then like be like, all right, I'm gonna finish this up. And then the next day I'll pick it up where I left off. I'll be like, this is stupid. What was I doing? And then just like never get back to it. So I gotta really like commit to it and
Yeah,
just
which
go
sucks
and
because it
launch it.
probably wasn't stupid. You just
I
overthought
know,
it.
I know, I
Dude, I
know.
have like ideas. I have like a notes open in my phone, and anytime I get an idea, I'll like put it in. Or if I think of somebody, that I want to invite on the podcast or whatever it is, I'll always throw it right in the notes. Some of the things that are still in my notes are like reaction to Jaden Daniels. Well, that was a week ago already. I didn't
Yeah,
even make a video about that. And there's things, if you go back and look at it. There's another one in there. It's already 5 days ago about Ian Gary acting like such a chump after the fight and like trying to big brother Khabib after the
yeah,
fight. Like these are things that are already a week old now. Like it's not only about the time commitment, but it's about striking why the idea is hot and why the topic's hot.
yeah.
And you have to be available to do it. It's I'm going home. I'm spending a lot of time doing it. I'm trying to stay away from the bar, behave myself. I'm in the middle of a 90-day reset. I think today's day 63, 64, something like that. I'm losing track. So I just been going home, watching baseball, and making some content.
Nice. Yeah, it is tough. It's definitely it's a full-time job. It requires a lot of work, and you got to be okay with like posting stuff that's not going to really generate a lot of traction out of the shoot.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with
Yeah.
just
There's nothing
pumping
worse
away.
than when I post a video that I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great, and I get like less than 100 views on it, and I'm
I
like,
know.
damn it.
What is
And then
this?
I'll
And
post something silly and get like 4,000 on it. I'm
dude,
like,
unbelievable. I posted this one. I was getting ready to leave my apartment and I just had this like snap idea because I got a couple cats and you always have to be on the lookout for whether or not the cats are in like the closets or doing whatever. So I just made this quick video. It's just a little selfie video and it was like, cat owners leaving the house, like phone, wallet, keys, and then cat's not
I
stuck in
saw
the
that one. I
closet.
saw that one.
Yeah, and it was just I made it like on a whim out of nowhere. It took me like 5 minutes, and it got like 11 million views or something. Or no, 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 maybe that one, the one where I was playing as Whiskers got 11 million, but that got a couple million. I'm like, geez, like sometimes those ideas that
It's
just
so
come like
silly.
this.
So the only one that I've ever been a part of, we got 33 million views. It
Yeah,
was at my old office. I held up a sign that said, you know, um, I need you. And then my boss in the other glass office put, hold up, one, I miss you. And then we played the Vanessa Carlton song, as the videographer swayed from my office to his office as the song said those things.
yeah,
And that got over 33 million views. I
got a
had
lot.
like people texting me like, my friend just sent me this, like I can't believe it's you. It was just a
Yeah,
very wild experience. um People I haven't heard from in years were texting me about it. It was
yeah,
pretty cool, but it was the stupidest one that I made. And the best part about it is that I actually asked this coworker at the time to do the video with me, and they were like, eh, that sounds kind of, that's kind of stupid, right?
yeah.
And then so I ended up doing it with my boss, and then it got 3 million
Blew
views.
up.
And let me tell you, that was the funniest thing. All of a sudden, now you see him all over social media. I'm gonna send him this clip. Now I see him all over social
He's
media
like,
since that happened. He
yeah,
he
super
he missed,
salty.
yeah, he missed the big one, and now he's trying to recreate it. He does have some good videos. I'll give him some props.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah. You never know which ones are gonna go.
so recently, not too long ago, but enough to have a good conversation about it. You made that change from the umpiring world into the world of real estate. It's a very interesting world. There's a lot of
Yeah.
real estate industry myths. There's a lot that people who aren't a part of the industry don't know. There's even a lot of things that people in the industry don't know, especially as far as other positions. I always, joke about or find it funny or ironic that, if you speak to a title guy or an insurance guy or a mortgage person or a realtor, they'll always talk about how their job's the hardest and that everyone else doesn't know what they're doing, right? You'll hear that like all the time.
Yeah.
Like, why can't these lenders just do this? Or like, oh, this realtor knows nothing or whatever it is. Like, it's so funny that real estate has done that. What are some of the things that you, or some of the impressions you had when you were still in the umpire world about real estate that have changed since you've been in?
Um, so I didn't really know what to expect. When I made the transition, when I got released from baseball, I got released in 2022. Just a very competitive world in baseball. I was kind of unsure of what I wanted to do. So I actually went into car sales first. And that's where I kind of did that whole thing for a little while, loved it, enjoyed it. Did great. But I saw
Yeah.
my brother-in-law and he was doing real estate. And I was like, he had mentioned it to me. He's like, I think you got the personality. You should probably give this a shot. I think you could do it. And he was killing it. He's like, doing tons of transactions. He's bought a lot of his own properties. He's managing them. And I was like, all right, like I'm gonna dive into that, see what I can do. Um, and then once I got my license, I had it for a little bit. I was getting some online leads. I think I landed my first client in like a month or so. I listed her house. It was in Northeast Philadelphia. Listed her house. It was up for 4 days. We got two offers. We ended up accepting an offer that was for 5,000 over. We went to the close table pretty quick, and I was like, this is easy. And then, there's a little bit more of a draft. I realized that, sometimes they come easy and sometimes, most of the time, they don't.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people will say, "Oh, realtors, they'll just post this on the MLS." What did you have to do as far as when you got that first client? And obviously, it's a learning process for you at that point as well. After you listed the house or during that listing process, what are some of the things that came up that were just new to you, whether it's in staging or marketing or just contract negotiation? What's that first deal like?
Well, I learned the importance of like having a good network. So, I kind of reached out to a couple of people that I knew in real estate, especially in the Philadelphia area, because I didn't really know that many that were in the Philadelphia area. So I posted on my company's. I work for EXP, so I posted on their little discussion board or whatever, and somebody reached out. His name's Mike Ivanov, and he's been in my corner helping me out the whole time. So he
Gotcha.
gave me a couple connects that so setting up photography, making sure that photography was good. You don't want to be going in there just snapping them with your phone.
No.
Um, that's mistake number one. So yeah, just making sure that just building your network and building your connections and making sure that you have a lot of different people that you can rely on and go to in case you need anything along the way.
Absolutely. So you met this person through EXP, or
Hmm.
is he the one who introduced you to EXP?
No, my brother-in-law is the one that introduced me to EXP.
Okay. And
He
where's he located? Is he in the Philadelphia area too?
No, he's in the Poconos. He's up in
Okay.
he's up in Hazleton, but he does
Okay.
everything out in
That's where a lot
Luzerne
of my
County.
family's from. That area, right when
Yeah.
they moved to America. That Hazleton, Bethlehem, Nazareth
Uh-huh.
area up there.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Yeah, so he does a
very
lot of his
familiar.
business up there, but he's still, a great resource. He helps me with, working on like the expireds and the for sale by owners and
Yeah.
navigating how those things work, how those conversations go. So he's helped me out a ton. And then Mike, like I said, it was he did it out of the goodness of his heart. He helped me a ton with my most recent transaction too, which was It was like a penthouse apartment in Old City. So
Okay.
it was beautiful. He helped me out with an inspector, and he actually went to the inspection for me because I couldn't make it to the inspection. So he went through there and, just kind of helped me out, and I made sure to we went and got a nice big steak dinner afterwards, and
Oh
we
yeah.
we make sure to help each other out as best we can. But he's been
Yeah, it's a
a
business
really
where
good
you
asset.
definitely need a team and definitely need people that you can rely on in multiple areas.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
definitely.
are you planning on mixing in a little more of this real estate stuff to your TikToks?
Yeah, I would love to, but just I have trouble finding ways. Uh, I'm trying to think of who my. I mean, my target audience is clients, but I don't want to just make it seem like I'm like, oh, come do business with me. Like I want to make it entertaining in a way that shows my seriousness in the business, but also shows my personality, and
Yeah, it's a
just is
fine
kind of like
line to
my own
walk for sure.
thing. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So,
Because you
I
want
mean,
them to take you serious, but you also want your page to be entertaining
yeah,
and, easygoing.
yeah, yeah. And right now, I mostly use it for entertaining things. But like I said, I'm learning a lot about just the whole process and like what kind of resonates, how you create hooks, and like what makes people stay, what makes them continue to
Yeah,
watch. So while it's not very real estate related at this moment, I would like to incorporate more stuff in while still keeping some of my lifestyle, just silly sketch comedy stuff in as well.
absolutely. I think mortgages and hoagies, it's obviously,
I love
it's
that, dude.
it's 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 hard to not be serious about mortgages because it's such an important thing. But it's like,
Yeah.
oh, mortgages and hoagies, what's
Yeah.
that? It's actually, a jingle that Joe Wilkinson used to sing when I would come into the office in Ann Arbor, Michigan 14 years ago. And I named it after tailgates and now the podcast, and it's just become a fun thing because you can't
Yeah.
not laugh when you hear that title. It's like mortgages and hoagies, like,
Dude, that
what's that?
the theme song is catchy. I catch myself singing it, man.
It's
I
funny
love it.
because
You're
I actually
walking
took the
by.
recording of Joe,
Yeah.
uploaded it to Suno, the AI app, and then said, "Do not change the lyrics or like the timing, but make it sound like a barbershop quartet." Right.
Yeah.
And then it spits that out. It was like the third
Dude.
version. And I'm like FaceTiming my brother and I'm sharing screens. So we're like listening to it
Yeah.
together. And we're like, our eyes like lit up. We're like, that's the one.
Yeah, it is
So
the one, man. It's perfect. It's perfect.
I appreciate it. All right.
Yeah.
So, um, as a Philadelphia area native or Pennsylvania native, whatever you want to call it, of course, you know what comes next on this show. One of our last segment here. I want you to count me down your top five cheesesteaks.
Oh, goodness. Top five cheesesteaks. I don't know if I can put them in order. I can tell you the ones that I
You
like that I
you
enjoy.
don't have to do an order, but we'll want five. If you'd rather do hoagies, you can do hoagies instead of cheesesteaks. There is that option.
Okay. I'm gonna throw a couple hoagies in there because I have two hoagies that I
Okay,
really
you're
like
gonna
in
do
the
a
city.
mixed list.
I'm gonna do a mixed list. All
All
right.
right,
So
that's okay. It's
we'll
gonna be
start
a
with the
first, but we'll
cheesesteaks.
do it.
We'll start. I'll get the cheesesteak. I'll mix them in. I'll give you the cheesesteaks and give you a little hoagie. I'll just a little. The hoagies would be the icing, the sprinkles on top.
All right, you got
So I recently had one at the Reading terminal. That was
it. Okay.
delicious. It was phenomenal. Um, I we used to get them all the time in Northeast Philadelphia at Cafe Carmela's. Those are very
Okay.
good as well. Um,
That appeared on DJ Zo's list.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good spot. It's a very good spot. It's weird. I actually like them. We used to get them. We used to pick them up from work and bring them back, and they'd be wrapped up in like in the tin foil, and
Yeah,
then
so it still be
they'd
hot.
come to you. It would still be hot, but the heat kind of like did something to the sandwich that made it even better for some reason. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like obviously they're great when they come right out, but it
Yeah.
was just
It's
like
just marinating in
the
the foil.
delay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the travel time usually isn't like something that you have in
It's
your favor. But I don't know, it like kind of
yeah.
softens up the roll a little bit, and but because it's got to stay crispy though. It's got to
They got
stay
to
crispy.
advertise it, a 50-minute aged cheesesteak,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, just 15. You don't want to go, yeah, just a little drive, down to Frankfurt Avenue, and that's perfect. But Cafe Carmel, those are some of my favorite to get that I would get during lunch. Um, Friggin', what's that place on Broad Street? The Clyde make their own bread. Angelo's, can't go wrong with
Okay.
Angelo's. And can't go wrong with Angelo's. Um,
They've appeared on every list.
yeah, yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm
It's
pretty sure.
it's gonna pop up. You're gonna get them. Um, let's see where else. I don't. You
You
can't
got
really
two
go
more,
wrong. You can't really go wrong in the city. Now, I mean,
especially for me. I was joking about with Jimmy was that I get excited for Jersey Mike's these days. It's pathetic. But I'm excited to come home and have some. So
yeah, it's all in the
yeah,
bread. It's all in the bread. You
yeah,
got good bread, you got a good cheesesteak. Nice little
of
Cooper
course.
Sharp mixed in there. Now, I'm not an onion guy. I don't really like the onion on it, but I do
Okay,
like the
I
long
am an onion
hots.
guy.
I like the long hots. I'll throw peppers on. I'll take a little bite of the pepper and squeeze the juice in there.
I'm a whiz wit. If they don't have good whiz, then I'm an American wit.
Okay.
And then sometimes I'll get creative, mushrooms or sometimes cherry peppers. That's kind of where I draw the
Yeah.
line. I will do long hots on like a pork sandwich. Like I like a pork provolone, broccoli rabe, and long hots. That's fire on a seeded
Yes.
roll.
There you go.
All right, you got two more.
I'm gonna switch over. I gotta switch to sandwiches
All
now.
right.
All
Okay.
right, another place. I'm going back up to the Northeast. There's a
Okay.
place, they make sandwiches called Finks. And the guy's a veteran and advertises that, but the prices are, you'll look at the menu and you'll see it's like $7 and like 36 cents or whatever it is, and you're like, that's a weird price for a sandwich. And then you go there and it all equals like $8, so it's $8 for a sub.
Okay.
And I ordered like two hoagies the one day, and um I got them and I was blown away because it's $8 and they're 11-inch subs. And I mean, they are deli sandwiches. They are big, they're delicious. They put a little mint in there with the Italian, to
Okay.
cancel out that the onion breath if you got the onions going. But it's just a good, classy place. I really like it a lot. They donate money to local organizations and things like that. And
Awesome.
good spot. Like that spot a lot. Finks, that's in Northeast Philly. And then in Fishtown, I used to go to a place called Castellino's down when I lived in
Okay.
Fishtown, and they got another good sandwich. They got a couple different items from the menu, but they got a shelf of nice like Italian sauces and different like all different types of ingredients and things like that, but very authentic. You can sit outside on the sidewalk, eat your hoagie, kind of, it's just reminiscent of like being in like Italy for me. So I thought those were very good. So, and that's Castellino's
Awesome.
in Fishtown.
Castellanos and Finks. Okay. All right. And lastly, before we get up out of here, the final question for you. Who would you like to see me invite to be on Kofsky's Mortgages and Hoagies?
Who would I like to see you invite? Let's see. I'm trying to think of who aligns in our world in the
It can
mortgages
be
and real
anyone who
estate
you
world.
think would be interesting to talk to, and we will take the conversation to mortgages and real estate at some point, but it's not limited to people in this world. It
You
can
know,
be anyone that you think I'd have an interesting conversation.
the only person that I can think of right now is Matt Case, because I
Yeah, I
remember
was thinking
him.
of Matt Case the other day. I saw him and Kozik post they were golfing or something the other day.
Yeah, I've seen I unfortunately haven't seen Kozik recently. He's married, got kids, got a lot going on. I have seen Case relatively
I
recently.
ran into him at Xfinity like a few years ago. I don't even know. It might have been like during COVID already. Like it might have been a
Yeah,
while ago.
yeah.
But
I
that
think I
was the only
remember
time
I
I've
remember
seen him
seeing
probably in
you
like
at
10 years.
I remember seeing you at Xfinity too one time. I think it was after like a Flyers game. bumping into
Yeah,
each
well, I
other
was
like
down there like
randomly.
35 times for 7 years a year. I was,
Yeah,
and when I was season ticket holder, I was down there all the time.
yeah.
So, all right, Matt Case, we're gonna have to reach out,
You
reconnect.
know,
I'm gonna see if I can get you on the show.
I think
Uh,
about him. I think about him one time. I'm pretty sure he was in like the real estate, and you'll have to ask him about this story. But he was showing a house, and he was in a basement, and he ended up taking one of like the underground tunnels, and they ended up in a completely different house. So if you get him on, ask for that story.
like some Gus Fring shit?
Yeah. So apparently in Philadelphia there are some basements that are shared, like shared basements. And he went down in one and ended up in a different house
Oh
during this
my
showing.
God. I'm definitely going to have to ask him about that.
Yeah, it's
Anyway, Matt Carlyon, thank you so much for joining us on Kofsky's Mortgages and Hoagies. Stay on after I stop recording so we can chat a little bit before I let you go. And I appreciate you coming on the show.
thank you so much for having me. It's been great catching up. I appreciate you.